Hey, so found out that the clock on my phone is about 4 minutes slower than the clock on my computer. Found that out the hard way. Man, it's been a weird week or two. God, help me figure out what to say here. Oh man. Well, one thing that well, Bernard and I like to make fun of not make fun of each other, make fun of ideas to each other and about each other. Like we've been, every once in a while I'll find some just bizarre Christian thing to read, and then I'll send it their way to Pam and Bernard. And then they'll do the same thing for me. They catch something just out there, and they'll send it to me, and then Bernard and I'll just just take it and run with it. So we found uh, we found this one thing talking about the importance of unity and and how it's important to stay unified, even if that means, well, the gist of it was basically compromising your own convictions. so so Bernard and I have just been having a heyday with that, especially like on Facebook. We'll just go back and forth and back and forth, and then we'll start talking about sports. And I don't know, we were just going to town with each other about like how this person's not in unity. They just got a yellow card. They need to love their neighbor more often. Stupid stuff. And then, ooh, I should silence my phone. And then poor Jim Martin from up in Ohio, he uh, he just kind of jumps into the conversation with a completely off-topic question. And then Bernard and I just kind of roll over it and just keep on going. Uh, hmm. So, yeah, we have fun. And especially, well, my boss went on vacation for the better part of a month, like just right around 3 weeks. And so, of course, at work, things were a little more, well, things were less forgiving because he's a pretty productive guy. He takes care of us. Then I find out he's getting a job in Arizona. He's transferring at the end of the month. And now I'm like, well, crap. Because I just, there's not that. I expect a lot of the people I work with because I try and put a lot of myself into what I do. And I never thought it was unrealistic to expect the same from other people. But apparently it is, because I hurt their feelings when I vocalize uh, how much I don't like doing their job after I'm done doing mine. So then here I am listening to Philippians this morning, and Paul's like, let your gentleness be known to everybody. Come across to people as kind, gentle, harmless, don't mean anything. Bernard's harassing me. Pray for him. Hmm. Completely lost my train of thought because I used Bernard's name in vain. Huh. Um, yeah, I just got standards for the people I work with, and not that many people meet them. And I've been trying to find a happy medium there. But still, I just God, pray for me. God expects a lot more out of the church than what he's getting right now. And there's grace for that. There's a lot of grace for that right now. You know, as things start wrapping up. A long time ago, I mentioned this before. Tim Stemple, one of the, he's like almost like the CPU of the Family Prayer Center here in Tulsa. And every once in a while, he gets a few services and just gives people something to think about for like 6 months, and then he makes another appearance and does the same thing. He said something years ago. I didn't even get a chance to find out how old it was. Talking about how important it is to focus on your own relationship with God, and to not, the time's coming to not pick people up and to not keep carrying them, to not stop and turn around and give them the old attaboy, and it's times for that are becoming less and less and less. So say that happens to you. One of your friends, somebody you care about, they start stumbling with something, and then they just, I can't make it. I just this, and what's God telling you to do? Is God telling you? Well, you think God's telling you to just keep going on. A lot more people are going to be hearing that a lot more with their in their relationships with people. Man, if you don't got the gumption to pick yourself up, put your hand out there and grab God's arm and let him pick you up, dude, that, how much farther are you expecting to go? So, say you got a friend that just kind of fell to the wayside. They're expecting you to be all sympathetic and kind and gracious and forgiving and understanding and loving. And you're like, hey, shape up, dude. Ain't nobody got time for that. And then they just start chewing you out because you're not being in enough love. People like that, they don't know much about love. They love themselves. But we got to get to a point where we don't need other people to reaffirm our convictions. And our values, it's that part, that's between us and God. And if we are supposed to be fitly joined to the head, which is Christ, in this body, we're going to push towards God, and then we're going to start finding people just coming out of the woodwork that are just of the same mind. And, faithful are the wounds of a friend. I was going to look that up in Proverbs, and then all of a sudden, I'm running late. There's some people, they can give me one of those good firm open palm smacks to the back of the head. I might not take it very gracefully, but I'll know that there was a reason that they were doing it. My goal is to make sure that they don't have to do it. There's a Christianity is about helping people. What did God want to do? What did God send Jesus here for? To save us, man, so we can be friends with God, and we can kind of pay it forward to all these other people that just don't know God for one reason or another, or think they know God and don't. The ones whose light that's in them is darkness. How great is that darkness? All I have been thinking about for a few weeks now is just standards, expectations, judgment within the church. We talk about, well, there's like 1,000 things I want to cover. We talk about how much of God we want, and then we keep giving our ear to this person or that person or that person, and then God. And it's important to have somebody helping to oversee our growth for a while, kind of like training wheels on a bike. But at some point, man, it's between you and God, and you and God, and nobody else. And that's where we're coming to. A lot of people don't want to be there. That's something I've been struggling with for a little while here lately. A few months at least, maybe a year, maybe. About how, man, I'm just about to the point where once you get the ball rolling downhill, you don't stop it. There's we can hear and read and study about all these old-time world-changing evangelists that just kind of fell apart at the end of their lives, like completely fell apart. And it's because they got this ball rolling, this ball of action, of doctrine, evangelism, of accountability, more accountability and less grace. We're not supposed to abuse grace as a means of staying juvenile and immature, and then think we're doing any good for God. Yeah, it's not that he doesn't love us, but he wants something from us, like to introduce other people to the same things that we've been transformed by. And if we're still so busy just throwing fits and picking fights and debating and this and that. What good do you expect to be? I was never really that passionate and fervent about the 6 days of creation versus the Big Bang and whatever else. Honestly, you start getting a feel for how God works in this world and how that supernatural stuff, like being fed by ravens, stuff like that, that you get provision by getting a job. You're still a part of society. Let's not be that blind to how the world works. So, if God starts work within the world, then doesn't it make sense that what science is doing is just exposing how God's doing it, how creation started? What kind of excuse does a Christian have for turning a scientist away from God because they're so blindly adamant about 6 solid days of creation and not having any scientific facts to back it up? How selfish and ignorant are you going to be in the name of God? The same God you're trying to evangelize people to. Evangelize to people. You know what I mean. So, we say we want to go somewhere with God. We got to stop entertaining ignorance and selfishness. Those old time evangelists and how they just self-destructed there at the end of their life. They crossed that threshold where they knew that they knew that they knew that they could hear God and they could be responsible for their actions. And then they took that step and started that ministry and then tried to take a step back into more of them and less of God. And it did not end well for them. God's been showing me that I'm just about at that point too where I can take that step. And I gotta be honest with you, dude, I am just terrified. I've been at this step for a good long while, just staring. Well, if I do this, man, I know my life is not at all my own anymore. I can't just turn my back on all this and be depressed. If I turn my back on it after that, man, I'm a goner. God's invested too much in me, and then it would just get toxic. I'd be honest with you, man. Part of me is just scared about that step. Sorry, we're talking about religious stuff. I guess I shouldn't be honest and build myself up. I should let you know how perfect I am and how inadequate everybody else is compared to me. No, that's not how God works. Another cool thing, I don't know how much time I've spent in Philippians in the past, and then, I was wanting to listen to something. Sometimes I got to listen to music in the morning for a while, just until I really come to myself and wake up. Sometimes. So I was doing that today, and then I was just kind of, I guess I'm coherent enough. I can start listening to some of the Bible. So I was looking through some of the books, and I thought, man, all of Paul's other epistles that I've really dug into, he talks about kicking people out. Let me make sure Philippians does too. Because, you can read through 1 Corinthians, hand this guy over to the devil for the destruction of his flesh because he's getting weird with his mom. And then Galatians, talking about the Judaizers. Why are you even giving them the time of day, man? They're just trying to exclude you so they can take pride in what you're doing. And so on. And then John, he gets pretty pointed about it too. If anybody doesn't share in this doctrine that we gave you guys, Why you have anything to do with them is beyond me. You're only hurting yourself then. 2 John. So, I was reading Philippians, well, listening to Johnny Cash read Philippians. And then, it's a short book, so I was able to tear through it pretty quick. And Paul said, let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, that he didn't consider it robbery to be equal with God and then take on the form of a servant. So, where's the room for religious humility in that? There's not much. If you want more of God, there is not much room for compromise. There is grace as you learn how to deal with stuff. But once you've learned how to deal with it, God's going to want an answer for why you keep screwing up. And His grace, that grace is not meant to be a permanent thing. It's not meant to be a permanent fixture in your life. Not like that. It's meant to be progressive. Oh, good. You learned how to stop exaggerating. Let's move on. I'll give you grace for road rage, whatever else. Good. You master road rage. I'll give you grace for dealing with lazy people. Good. You mastered that. Now it's a part of you. I'll give you grace for dealing with bossy, loud, obnoxious church people. I need lots of grace for that one. I'm still working on that. I just never understood why people who talk such a big game about how Jesus is Lord of their life, and they're the same year after year after year after year, and they brag about how they're illegally pirating this video or that video or whatever. I set up a VPN and my DNS thinks I'm in Britain. It's just, come on. You want God to use you, you better hold yourself to a higher standard than that. But when church people that know all the right buzzwords, all the right phrases, and they've armed themselves with all these out-of-context verses that they themselves are exempt from, but they use them to extort some guilt out of you, to leverage you. Like somebody in the church that keeps bouncing around in apartments. And they move from this apartment to this apartment to this apartment to this apartment. Like, well, I got the 7th floor apartment because it was cheaper. That's cool, right? Thank you, love you, bless you. Remember to not grow weary in doing good. Those kind of people need to be hauling their crap up all 7 flights of stairs by themselves. They're busy abusing that loving graciousness that good-hearted people in the church are trying to extend to everybody. Nobody. My dog just walked in. And he wants out. He can wait. Those kind of people, we're not supposed to keep enabling them. You know what that means? That means all the gossip that they share with all the other church people who gossip. You're going to be a part of that, and everybody's going to talk about how backslidden you are. He's just not very loving. Brother Pete needs to pray more because he didn't help me move. He just said no. He didn't even give me a reason. Yeah, the bright side on that is, though, they don't ask anymore. The other bright side is they leave me alone when I'm at church. And I can just pace around the sanctuary and pray. They don't come up to me and start throwing feelers out there to see how I am and what they can tell other people about me. I just kind of made the decision a while back. If it just comes down to me and God, as far as He and I are concerned, I am church. Carrie found a picture of a traffic jam or something online, and there was a caption to it. And it was like, "You're not in traffic, you are traffic." You're not in church, you are church. And I don't expect everybody to see things the same way I do, to interpret things, to convey things the same way I do, just because not everybody's called to the same people I am. I mean, my goodness. You listen to some messages that are fixated on emotions and self-esteem. That's not me at all. It doesn't mean it's not God. That is definitely not the group of people God is shaping me up for. I am absolutely sure of that. But if it just, it's never going to, in the scope of the entire world. As far as my sphere, if it ever just came down to me and God, I'm having church. If people want to have church with me, the way I have church, there will be standards and expectations. Jesus, Paul, John, all those apostles, they expressed standards and expectations in the church. They were focused on preserving the purity and the sanctity of the doctrine that they went to these towns and preached at the risk of their own lives and well-being. Paul lit into the Corinthians for being such selfish, weird, extravagant, showboating chumps. And then got on to him for still being immature. Said, I wish I could talk to you more and more and more about this, but I can't because you can't handle it. You're still fixated on the simple stuff because you haven't even tried to grow up on your own since I left. What are you doing? You're just putting on a show so you can prove to all these other people you're having church that you're more spiritual than them, and then you don't, outside of church where nobody can see, you don't spend any time with God? What good is that? Paraphrase. That's an even bolder translation than the contemporary English version. Might be a little more focused, though. But Paul was very, very straightforward with the churches he started. Both with the church and with the people that were trying to infect the church. And we got to get to that point. If God's ever going to try and lift us off into revival, which isn't going to be one of those, well, it wasn't here today, but it'll be here tomorrow. Then it's here tomorrow, and then that's it. Then what do you do? It's going to be like that Lakeland revival where the pastor just kind of went off the deep end. We talk about how it's not going to be. Well, I don't think that guy planned on it. Jim Martin shared something about how what God's doing now is something, it's gradual. It's like a grassroots movement coming building from the ground up. It's not one of those things you just throw together in a few hours. It's one of those you build and build and build and build and build, and then all of a sudden, hey, I got me a house. It's like that. It's where the change is permanent, and it's not just grace and grace and grace, and these people living in that grace with all these miracles and having shiny gold dandruff show up on your padded shoulder suit and gems showing up in your pockets, quarters sticking to walls, and people slithering around on the floor. That's when you know grace is expiring. Because God, when He comes in and does something, it's for His glory. It's so people can see Him. What do you see of God when you're looking at a quarter stuck on the wall? Come on. Yeah, that happens. There's no room for deliberate compromise. Yeah, to some extent, every single one of us is compromised just because we're learning how to deal with stuff. You know where I'm compromised? Pride, my temper, the way I deal with people. There's this, there's this old guy at work, and he's one of those manipulative old people that uses his age as a way to guile people. And you know, I just don't play along with it. And I may have been a little too cold for a while. And then I keep asking God, it's like, God, I don't like the direction I'm going with the way I'm dealing with people at my job. What do I need to change? He's like, well, be friends with that guy. Like, well, God, I don't like the direction things are going with the way I'm dealing with people at work. No, really, what do I need to change? Come on, be real. Let's hear it. I'll be friends with that guy. Well, God, come on now, really, come on. Be serious. Be friends with that guy. God, I don't want to be friends with a geriatric sociopath. Be friends with that guy. You asked. You got an answer. What are you going to do with it now? God, I don't want to be friends with an old person that's just a crazy socio-manipulative. Yeah. Surely there's another way, Jesus. No. Let your gentleness be known to all men. I can compromise there and live the rest of my life right there, like that. This cynical, overconfident, proud, unfriendly, callous, cold D-bag. Or I can just learn how to get over myself. Follow the same footprints Jesus already walked. Yeah, Jesus had some pretty rough skin. He could deal with a lot, and he did not take it personally. Even when they tried to make it personal. Well, at least we know who our Father is. Where's your dad? And then he just keeps right on rolling. When the world hates you, know that they hated him first. If somebody wants to scream at you about not being in love because you're not catering to them, because they want to continue a lifestyle of petty immaturity and fighting a worthless fight that really has nothing to do with God, and then call it spiritual warfare like it's anything righteous, they are not on a path that we want to be on. So you let them scream and scream and scream and make it personal and try and pinch a nerve, try and get under your skin. Let them know they're doing it because of truth. If they wanted truth, they would have gotten it a while back. Maybe they didn't know how, so they just got stuck. You present it to them, then what? I snuck in a quick once-over of Titus right before I started this. And Paul's like, hey, when it comes to these people that are these brothers that are wrong, admonish them once, twice, and then wash your hands of it. You did your part. If you want God, then you need to start looking past people. I look at Dave and Gary for stuff, but they don't put themselves in the way of me and God. They're like, you know, when you're going down the highway, there's like food and lodging this many miles. They're kind of like that. And you know you got something to look forward to in a certain amount of time. But they have never once tried to put themselves in front of me. They're a milestone of encouragement for all of us. That's what they're supposed to be. That's what they're trying to be. That's what they are. But don't make room for people that are telling you how things are and demanding that you accept it. And if people want to be a part of the church, want to be a part of your intimate fellowship with God, not corporate, but I mean like you and God time. If they want to be a part of that, they better accept that they're going to grow up too. Otherwise, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to try and hold you down too. So why bother? Let God discern their heart and convey it to you. But he's going to do that when he knows you're not going to hurt them. When you've got enough of God in you, enough love and restraint, self-control, to not take these weaknesses and insecurities that God has shown you about that person and then just fling it right into their face. When you know you can be above that, you'll start learning a lot more about people. But that kind of restraint, flip side of that is being able to keep your mouth shut when they're going off on you. If they want to make it personal, they're just displaying how petty they are. If they want to make it religious, let's have a chat, boyo. Jim Martin has this series on his website about the days of Jeremiah are upon us. And I only heard the first one so far. But he's talking about Facebook and what a wonderful revelation tool it is, because all these people just get on there and spout off what God's been telling them, and then it's usually just a regurgitation of their pastor. But they take credit for it. And a lot of times that is just garbage. Like this one guy, every once in a while, he just shows up because of other people. And he's like, well, here's my daily prophetic word for such and such day. And it's like, in July, the truth will fly. It's like, all right, Dr. Seuss, what else you got? It's like, come on, if you're going to make it daily, you ought to have a stockpile of stuff that's not just weird one-liners. And then have all this religious amening and I'll receive it. Reception's a matter of the heart, not a matter of the mouth. Don't matter what you say. So, not a time for compromise. It's a time to really establish who we are individually with God, what He wants from us, because it's not going to be exactly the same. Well, yeah, exactly the same as what He wants from this person or that person or that person. Yeah, ultimately He wants people saved. How it looks in your life, the way you express it in your life, it's not going to look the same as how it does in mine. That's one reason there's so many burnouts in the church at large. They're just so focused on manufacturing believers that they forget it's about this person and God. God has time and resources and attention for every single one of us. Church doesn't make that time. So, us black sheep, the outsiders, we're treated more like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And then we just get discouraged because we're never going to be good enough. What's the point in trying? I'm never going to get there. It's just, that is not me. Man, God's got something pretty special for you that those people won't ever understand. Like, what was it, Hebrews? Talking about how angels, man, they would love to understand salvation, but they can't. It's something almost along those lines that God's got for the burnouts. So, don't be discouraged. Don't be afraid to experiment how you express yourself with God. I mean, yeah, it's got to be on the biblical foundation. Let's not make it real weird. That's how cults get started. But, it's just pure heart, man. Maybe it's just a matter of looking at how other people interact with God and then just trying to apply each one and then figuring out where it works for you. There ain't nothing wrong with that. And if somebody tells you there is, you can suggest that they read the New Testament until truth sinks in, because they don't have much. And then when they when they start belittling you and condescending you and make sure that you know how much more they know than you and how much more mature they are than you, offer them a cold beer. That'll usually drive them off. I'm too holy for alcohol. All right. But you're not too holy for gossip and judgment? Ungodly judgment? Huh. getting there. But there is going to be a separation. You know how one of Dave's, well, let's say you have something like a bandage or a cast or something, or a band-aid on you for way too long, and then your body just starts growing around it, and just like basically, well, you're foreign, but you're not going anywhere, so I guess we got to work with you. And then comes time to remove that foreign object from out of wherever, like arm, leg, whatever. Then comes time to remove it. You might feel like you're losing a part of yourself, but it's something that was never supposed to be there in the first place. There's going to be a lot more of that for us that mean what we said to God about sticking it out with Him. There's, of course, there's going to be grace to get through it. Is it going to hurt? Probably. There's friends I know I'm going to lose that I ain't real thrilled about losing, just because they would rather hold on to the foundation of religion that they've had for decades than to be able to examine it and be like, man, what was I thinking? That's something we just need to accept is going to happen. It's going to hurt. There's going to be loss. But what did Paul say about loss? I could have lost everything. I've counted it all loss now because Jesus means that much more to me. Paul talks about how he set aside his own righteousness, that crap that came by the law, having to earn it by everything you do. That pales in comparison to what God's wanting to do for us now because of Jesus. So what are we doing trying to earn anything from God? Man, it's more like getting birthday money. Like when you were a kid, you just get birthday money and then you want to go spend it on anything. Whatever, what's fun? What can I buy with this? It's not a matter of earning that. What'd you do to have your birthday? You survived a year. That's one of the first of many gifts from God that He's trying to get across to us. So we got to get it out of our head that spiritual warfare does anything. What are we doing thinking God and the devil are somehow on the same plane? What's a fight? Oh yeah? Alright. Have fun with that. Because that's when you're going to lose. There's not much of God's grace in that. No sense in being ignorant. Paul made several comments about that too. Don't be like fools, man. You have this relationship with God, the way you carry yourself in this world, you be wise. Be innocent, but be smart. Be sharp, be harmless, be gentle, but don't be stupid. No, I could go on till I'm blue in the face. And I don't want to get to that point because nobody's here to take me to the hospital. So, love you guys, and talk to you again in a few weeks. Peace.